Hello again, class. Welcome back. This video, like the last one, is intended to replace a class that had to be canceled due to the weather. As before, there will be a short quiz at the end of this to take attendance and participation. So please look out for that and try to pay attention. Alright, so Chapter 4 is the Civil Liberties chapter, and right away we run into a problem here. Civil liberties and civil rights sound very similar, practically synonymous, but there actually is a key critical difference between the two. In the case of civil liberties, we have protections from the government. In civil rights, we have protections by the government. So, to put it simply, in the case of civil liberty, the Constitution is protecting the people from the government. The government is the enemy. In a civil right, the government is protecting the people from the other people. So the government is not our enemy, but our ally. Since we're only concerned with civil liberties, let me say that some of the most basic civil liberties you would think of first are all found in the Bill of Rights of the U.S. Constitution. So let's consider those first and foremost. Freedom of religion has two parts. Firstly, the government shall not endorse any religion officially. And second, the government will not condemn any religious beliefs. But in practice, this right is limited. For instance, I could not engage in human sacrifice. That would be murder, and that would be very much illegal, even if I was acting according to my best religious practices. Second, polygamy is still illegal in the state of Utah, some recent federal court cases notwithstanding. Not for any health or human safety reason, but simply because many people feel very squeamish about the concept of polygamy. It is not a common Judeo-Christian concept. So we like to talk the talk. We don't always walk the walk when it comes to freedom of religion. But we're just people. Freedom of speech is another right with some clear limits. For instance, you cannot share state secrets with the public, no matter how much you would like to. Edward Snowden got in some trouble for this, for sharing what he knew of the NSA wiretapping program with the public, which is why today he is in Russia rather than facing prosecution at home. There's also a clear and present danger exception to speech, the most famous example of which is shouting fire in a crowded theater. Now obviously, if there is a real fire, you can shout fire all you'd like, but if you are simply trying to cause a riot and a stampede outside of the theater, and knowingly and maliciously hurting someone, then that is not okay, and that is not protected free speech. People can also express themselves by actions instead of words, and these are also protected by the First Amendment, or not, as the case may be. Flag burning is a way to register disrespect for and distrust of the U.S. government is legal. However, burning a cross on someone's property is considered illegal. And the key difference here is that the act of flag burning is simply a way of expressing dislike of the government, which is okay, whereas the burning of a cross is historically associated with the Ku Klux Klan. It sends the not too subtle message that you are going to lynch someone. Therefore, it fails the clear and present danger exception and is not acceptable, whereas you can burn just as many flags as you like, legally, constitutionally. I'm not recommending it. There is a fighting words exception as well. Theoretically, if someone says something with the intent to start a fight with you and you fight them back, you are in the clear. In practice, this is an outmoded concept similar to pistols at dawn. There is not an abundance of constitutional law on the subject because no lawyer is willing to try a case with fighting words as the defense. So I don't recommend you try it. The old adage, your mother always told you about sticks and stones and broken bones, is very apropos here. Moving on to the press. The press has many freedoms in our society, but also many responsibilities. It can print gossip, but not slander or libel. And slander and libel are essentially the same concept. Slander is spoken, whereas libel is written, but both amount to knowing and malicious disregard for the truth. So to prove a libel case, you would have to demonstrate that a claim made was A, untrue, and B, knowingly false, which is very, very difficult to prove both of these, which is why the American media has more press freedoms than almost any other society in the world. You have the right to assembly, to petition and redress of grievances, but I don't need to tell you that this right is not absolute either. For instance, you can be arrested for picketing in front of a building without a permit. The Second Amendment protects the right to bear arms. Now, historically, there are a number of arguments for why this right was included in the Constitution. Some saying it was intended to protect the states, others saying it was to protect the people, or to protect the country from armed invasion. And to some extent, all of these are true. However, we have to understand in the time frame when the Constitution was adopted, most people, most families, at least owned a gun, a musket, and kept it clean and loaded. And this was just a normal thing. Whereas today we have an abundance of powerful firearms created for the exclusive purpose of killing as many human beings as quickly as possible. And we do not allow people to own any firearm that they wish. For instance, you need a license to own even a small pistol. You cannot own an automatic firearm under any circumstances, and there's no way you can own a rocket launcher, a nuke, or a Predator drone. Those are exclusively military hardware. I have little to say about the Third Amendment, the Quartering Amendment, because there's no law on the books, no case where a police officer asked to crash on someone's couch, for instance. It simply hasn't been relevant since the American Revolution. On the subject of vehicle searches alone, I have much to say, but not much time to say it. So let me simply cut to the chase here and say that the police have many, many powers and tricks at their disposal to get at the truth. If they want to search your trunk or your glove compartment, it's as easy as taking you into detention and then taking the car into impoundment, or calling a drug-sniffing dog over and maybe he smells something and maybe it's a false alarm, but that will get them to the probable cause they need to search darn near every inch of your vehicle. So with that said, while you in theory have the power to refuse consent to search any part of the vehicle, in practice it's much, much harder. Your best defense from law enforcement is to be unassuming, uninteresting, and non-threatening to the officer. If the officer thinks it's not worth your trouble to search your car, then they won't search your car. For home searches, the courts have determined that homeowners have a much greater expectation of privacy within their homes because, as the saying goes, a man's home is his castle. With that said, the police know all the tricks, so if it isn't fenced in, roofed in, and out of sight, it's probably fair game, with or without a warrant. If you leave garbage out overnight, the police can search that because obviously you're not willing to protect it if you're not going to keep it indoors at all times. In the case of what's inside your mailbox, that is a sacred trust between you and the U.S. Postal Service. They can't search that without receiving a warrant. I meant to talk about Amendment 5, 6, and 8. Those are all very interesting, but in interest of time, we will just have to skip them. Hopefully I can make it up in Tuesday's class. Look forward to seeing some of you then. Remember, there's an exam this week and a short quiz following this video.